Hey guys, I'm here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another check-in video. So this is the check-in video for June 2024. So to start off, I've had a pretty interesting month so far. I've done things that I've never done before, and I've gotten to experience things that are pretty interesting and cool and kind of unexpected. So I'm pretty happy with the month so far. It's been a much better month than May, for sure. I mean, no one's died yet. Things have been busy in a way that I wasn't really expecting for the summer. But it's been satisfying and exciting for the vast majority of that time, right? So I'm pretty happy. So in terms of stuff that I've done, I mean, I went to Howard Days, of course, and I did an hour-long video on that. And Howard Days was wonderful. I'm very happy about it. I'm definitely going back next year for sure. I really want to experience it again. And of course, every year is different, right? But at the very least, I know that I'm going to enjoy myself, right? I'll have fun talking to people about Conan and about stuff that Robert E. Howard wrote, right? So that's pretty special. I like that a lot. It was nice to meet Jim Zub and Jeff Shanks and everyone that I met there. And I really hope that next year, there's even more cool stuff to do. And I don't know, I really liked it. I thought it was great. Beyond that, I also went to a screening for the first time ever, right? So screening is just a advanced showing of a movie, right? And usually these screenings are like social media events, right? Like they're this type of thing where you're going and there's a reserved room for the event based around whatever it is that it is, right? In this case, it wasn't really like that. It was an advanced screening. There was a reservation and it was free. I got to go just because, but it wasn't necessarily like a big event, right? It was pretty small. About a third of the movie theater was reserved for Netflix people, and most of it was empty. Everything else that wasn't reserved for Netflix based people was pretty full. Like it was a good screening. It was a good movie. Everyone enjoyed it. But it was cool to be able to experience a movie ahead of everyone else being able to experience it, right? So I thought that was cool. And there really isn't too much else to say about that, but it was interesting, and I like that I got to do these two things that I had never done before, which is go to a con and then go to a screening, right? So that's basically that. I've had a lot of schoolwork to do, so I've been reading a lot less. I've been watching a bit more TV, but I still managed to read through a lot of stuff, right? So let's talk about that now. Let's talk about the watch list first, right? So I watched Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning. That was the last thing I watched at home with my family before I came back to Dallas. Then I watched Ancient Apocalypse. This is a 8-episode series. I guess it might be season 1. There might be more seasons. I'm not really sure. Made by Graham Hancock. Now, Graham Hancock is a pseudo-archaeologist. He's actually a journalist that has an interest in archaeology, specifically archaeology that can prove his theory that Atlantis existed, right? And it's not really Atlantis. It's more like an ancient civilization that existed before what we term as modern civilization started, right? So he basically has this idea that back in the day, before the Ice Age, there was an advanced race of humans that managed to get to a world level society, right? And this society had basically a world ending event happen, which is the Younger Dryas period, which is just meteorites and rapid heating of the world, right? So it was basically a flooding, right? And he basically has this idea that the reason why every culture in the world, or most cultures in the world, have a flooding myth and then have a civilizer god character or ancient character, right? Is because all of humanity went through the Ice Age and then saw the Ice Age end, right? Where with the rapid elevation of sea levels, which is the flooding. And then the leftovers of that ancient civilization that he thinks existed were the civilizer people that we see in stories, right? Do I believe it? Not really. No, I don't think that it's true. I think that there's a lot of compelling things that separately look like evidence for this, but I don't necessarily think that it's true. However, he does bring up a lot of interesting points in this Ancient Apocalypse show, right? So he takes you around the world to a bunch of different, sites, and he says, these sites are dated to a certain time, but it doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit in with like proper or like whatever he thinks is the proper dating for the place or for the area around them, right? And then he mentions quite often that archaeologists and stuff and people that are related to those subjects, anthropologists and stuff like that, are not actually doing everything they can to research these sites properly. And on one hand, you can argue, well, it's because most people don't give a shit about Mexican archaeology or Mesoamerican archaeology or Indonesian archaeology or Turkish archaeology or whatever, right? But then recently I saw this video explaining that Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the places that he shows in this Ancient Apocalypse video or series, is important and should be excavated, but there's been some shenanigans with the Turkish government and some organization that makes it so that you actually can't go and excavate it. They're turning it into a amusement, like not an amusement park, but like a center to bring in people to come to this place, right? Like a tourist attraction. And by doing so, they're actually damaging the site and they're making it harder to excavate, right? Because they basically put down concrete everywhere, and when you put down concrete everywhere, creating the necessary infrastructure for that, plus the fact that when you want to dig out, you have to break the concrete, makes it way harder, right? So they're basically, one, damaging the site, and two, making it harder to excavate. So now the Turkish government has an incentive to not excavate it, right? Which is a problem. So maybe he's onto something, but I'm not really sure what that would be, right? I don't think it's an ancient civilization. I don't think that it's necessarily some sort of like conspiracy that anthropologists and archaeological people have to not really show the true history of the world or anything like that. I wonder why they do some of these things, right? They did the same thing in China with some archaeological site, right? So I don't know. I think it's an interesting show. I think you guys should watch it. If nothing else, because he shows a bunch of cool, interesting ancient sites, right? So it's a cool show. I think Grant Hancock is a bit kooky, but it is what it is. Then I watched Delicious in Dungeon, and I loved the anime. I thought it was phenomenal. It was so entertaining. It was so charming. It was great. However, I do want to say that I think that the anime is better than the manga, and that really rankles me, because I think that the source material is probably usually or should be the correct way to enjoy something, right? But the anime just adds so much to this series. I remember reading the first 5 volumes of the series of Delicious in Dungeon, and I liked it. I really enjoyed the concept, but it's been a few years and I didn't pick up any more volumes of it, because even though I liked the concept, I was not interested in the characters. I was not that excited about reading more about them, right? However, the series manages to kind of change that a bit, because adding voices, adding ridiculous, crazy, funny expressions, and music and stuff really makes it more atmospheric, more enthralling. And so it's managed to make me care about this series and the characters a lot more, right? Also, because of the way that anime is paced compared to manga, I think I got to the interesting parts of the story faster than the manga did, right? So I ended up really, really enjoying it. And I do think that going forward, probably the right way to experience Delicious in Dungeon is through this anime. So, there you go. But great series. I would call it like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, it was nearly perfect. I'm just kind of unhappy about how it ended, because it doesn't feel like, on one hand, it is clearly ended in the right place to end, right? On the other hand, it felt kind of abrupt. Like they were like, oh, okay, the budget's over, so let's just close it down. Thank God we got to this part that isn't horrible to end on, right? And that's a bit disappointing, but otherwise, like, the series is great. I really loved it. The music was fun and interesting. The animation is wonderful. There's a lot of different animators that worked on this, or a lot of different groups, even though it's technically a Studio Trigger series. There's a lot of people that worked on it. And you can tell, you know, sometimes, like, it almost feels like they switch scene to scene, and they managed to keep this cohesive level to everything. But there, you can sometimes notice that, oh, this is different from the previous scene, right? And it's not really that big of a deal, but I did notice it, and so I do want to dock a little bit for that, right? So there's that. But otherwise, it's a great series. I really love it. So I recommend you guys watch it too. Then I watched Ultraman Rising, and this is the movie I went to the screening for. And wow, it's a great movie. I love it. It has so much heart. It's wonderful. It's so good. I recommend you guys watch it because it's so wonderful. Like, it's exciting. It's fun. It's heartfelt. It has a lot of action, and it has that superhero vibe to it that obviously it should. But it also has this like great like family dynamic, this kind of drama that many families probably struggle with or have struggled with before, right? It has this connection between, you know, the young character that's our main character and this child, very similar to, you know, anything Pedro Pascal is in. And it also has this great, like, vibe to it. Like, it reminds me of what I remember animated movies to be like, right? Back in the day. And it's great. I really love it. I recommend you guys watch this. If you have a family, your kids will probably enjoy it, and you as an adult will probably enjoy it as well, because it has a lot of things that make sense to everyone, right? And then I started watching Konosuba. I started watching the first season on Netflix. I will eventually transition over to Crunchyroll. And I'm really liking it. It's pretty fun. But I don't think I'll finish watching this season this month, just because there's probably other things I want to watch, right? So we'll see. But so far I'm liking it. It's just like I've seen some of it before, so it's not completely new to me, but it's not managing to be that impressive because I already kind of know exactly what's going on since I've read the first volume of the light novel a few years ago, right? So yeah, that's it for that. I will talk about what I've been reading so far, but I need a break for my throat, so I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I'm back. I'm not going to divide by type of book. I'm just going to talk about all of them equally here. So I'm starting off with stuff that really isn't related to the theme I had this month, which is June on the Range. I read Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun, and I really loved it. I thought it was really, really fun. I really liked the comedy aspects here because it's like a more comedic version of My Hero Academia almost. Like, this main character is very similar to Deku, and these two characters here are just crazy in a way that also feels similar to My Hero Academia. And it's just this kid goes to school in a demon world, and he has to deal with the fact that he's human, right? And so it reminds me a lot of Rosario Vampire, right? But with a more modern vibe to it. And I really like it. I think it's really fun. I think that the comedy is probably the best, like I mentioned, but there's really cool action scenes, and there's really cool moments where it's not about the comedy, it's about, you know, something else, and I really liked it. I think it's great. I definitely want to read more of it, but I don't know when I'll buy the next volume, so we'll see. But good stuff with that. So, then I read Record of Ragnarok, number 10, and I forgot that this was the end of the Raiden Tamamon and Shiva fight. It was really good. I think that at this point, we're actually getting to new stuff. I don't remember anything after this, although I did watch the anime, and I think that after this fight, we have Buddha coming up, right? And I think he fights for the humans, right? So I'm not really sure, but that volume was great. It was so exciting and emotional, and there was these great moments between Raiden and Shiva, and the parallelism between the two, right? That's why they changed Shiva's backstory from like what it is in mythology, right? Or what it is in Hinduism, right? To match better with Raman Tamamon's, exaggerated story here. And I really like it. I think it works really nicely. So, yeah, I really like that. I had a lot of fun with Record of Ragnarok because, what else, what is there to dislike about it, right? So, yeah. Then I've started reading Louis L'Amour's Hondo. I'm about 35 pages in, more or less. And there's something great about the way Louis L'Amour writes, right? I was trying to think about how to describe it yesterday. I thought, is it snappy? No, it's not really snappy. Is it crisp? No, because that implies a certain level of lightness that I don't think there is here. It's not punchy either, but it has a certain level of dryness, but also like momentum to it that makes it easy to read in a way that is exciting, right? So, so far in the story, nothing really that exciting has happened. Hondo has escaped from these Apaches and has made it to this little farmstead where he met a woman, right? And the most exciting thing he's done is breaking a horse while they watch. And that's not super exciting, but something about the way it's written is just so riveting, right? So maybe that's the right way to describe it, because it feels like what a crotchety old man would talk like, but you're reading it in a nicely set up way. And it has this certain level of I don't know, it feels like you're reading this and you feel like you're in the Old West, right? You are there, you are with Hondo, or you are Hondo, looking at these things that he's seeing and understanding why he feels the way he feels. And it's just great. And I really love how Louis L'Amour writes, right? So, yeah. Hopefully I'll read a few more pages of that today. Then I also started reading the Tarzan New Adventures comic. I'm about 25 strips in, I think. Let's see where I left off. 20 strips in, and it's pretty cool. So far, basically, Tarzan thinks Jane has died, and he has to go search for her. He got a message from Law of Opar, who told him, hey, I have her, and so he went down to Opar to try to talk to her, and it turns out that it was all just a ploy to get him to stay with her, because Law is infatuated with Tarzan, right? And when he said no, she sends off a lion against him, and Tarzan fights the lion. It was really fucking awesome. It was really cool. There is one thing I didn't like, and it's that, there's this ratio of page here, and there was a scene there was a strip where that ratio was not respected. And so what happened is that you ended up with a lot of blank space, and that's dissatisfying because it feels like the action that was presented here needed a larger size, not a smaller one, right? So, and the page I'm talking about is this one, right? It's Tarzan fighting this lion, right? And it looks badass as fuck, but you see all of this? This is because this ratio for this strip is longer than this page, right? And that's disappointing because I feel like there could have been a way to rearrange that to make it larger so that you could appreciate these strips down here better, right? But I'm not really sure what happened there, but it is disappointing because I don't like that there's so much blank space, right? So, yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing I haven't liked so far. Everything else is great. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, and continuing on here, I've just read single issue comics from going forward, right? So, I'll mention them. These first 7 or so that I'm talking about now are the ones I have to review for the channel that I haven't reviewed yet. So, we have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong number 7. Good stuff, good ending. It does manage to roll everything up properly by the end, but it feels like there's pacing issues. And I really wish that, it was a possible thing to go back and restructure things in the story to make it better, but I don't think that that's possible just because of how things are done, right? But it's a bit disappointing, but not so much that it's that bad. I would give the series like a 4 out of 5 probably, but I need to reread it and give you guys a proper review for it later on. Here we have Red Sonja number 11. Pretty good issue. It seems like it's coming to a climax here, and I still don't know when the series will end, but I think 14 issues is probably good, but we'll see. Here we have Spider-Man number 5, Ultimate Spider-Man number 5. I didn't like this issue that much. This is a conversation issue like last time. However, the tension here was pretty low. I was not that excited about what was happening. You have Transformers number 9. This is a great issue. I really liked it. There's some awesome action here. Ain't No Grave number 2. This series is phenomenal. It's so good. However, at this point, we're like nearly a third of the way through the series, and she hasn't met death yet. So I'm curious to see where that goes. You have Thundercats number 5. This is a pretty good story. It's a self-contained story. It follows on from last time, from the end of the arc, but basically this is just like a special chapter in the story to grow Chitara, like people's interest in Chitara a bit, so that when her special series comes out, you're more interested, right? I liked it. I thought it was good, but it didn't need a whole issue to be that, right? But we'll see. Dawn Runner number 3, really good stuff here. I really like it. However, I'm not really sure how long this is supposed to be. And we are getting more information, but kind of things have changed a lot. And I'm not sure that we had enough time with like the status quo to really appreciate the change that much. But, you know, I might be wrong. So we'll see. So that's the stuff I have to review. Now we have to move on to stuff that I don't really want to review on the channel yet. So it's fine to talk about it normally, right? So here's my adventure with Superman number 1. This is great. I really liked it. The art style is a bit different from the animation, obviously, but not so much that it's jarring. This was just a setup, right? So it'd be the equivalent of like the first 10 minutes of the episode. But it was good. Here we have Dick Tracy number 2. This was pretty enjoyable, but not as exciting as the first one. However, there's a lot of building of the mystery here, so I'm excited to see what happens next. Although, I gotta say the $5 price tag on this is a bit steep. I'm not sure that I like it that much. Like, I don't like it enough to continue to spend $5 on it, so I might have to step off here soon, right? But if it was $3, I would have no problem with it. It's $1 extra, right? So it's a bit much at that point. You have Blue Beetle number 10. I'm very upset that this is ending because Shazam is still going on, and I'm not sure why Shazam is going on and not Blue Beetle, because I feel like the series is so good and so enjoyable, and I'm very upset that this is the second to last issue. Here's Remote Space number 1. This is a 4-issue miniseries. It's the first one that just came out, and it's pretty good. I liked it. I think it's interesting. It's not really exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it was about aliens. It's actually about like future humans and this like technology versus nature type thing. So it'll be pretty exciting to see how it goes. But so far it was just world building, and my experience with Image series that are about like sci-fi and that spend a lot of time world building at the beginning is that they're kind of weak, right? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, here we have Conan number 11. I didn't get it signed, even though I did go to Howard Days because I forgot about it. But I'm okay with it because ultimately I think that it was probably better to just get 1 through 10 and not go up to 11, just because it would freak me out over time, right? Like I would get upset about the fact that I don't have like a full year's worth of comics signed, or I don't have like a proper ending point signed or whatever. You guys know how collecting is, right? Sometimes you just, even though it makes no rational sense, you're upset about stuff that isn't that big a deal because it affects how your collection looks or how you feel about it, right? So yeah, but it's no big deal. Conan number 11 was awesome. I think I already did the review for it, so hopefully I'll if I haven't put it out yet, although I think I did, hopefully it's out soon. Here we have Thundercats number 4. This is pretty good. It was a good story, but I don't necessarily think it was an ending to the arc. But like I said in the review, I think it's just because this first arc of 4 issues is more like a prologue, right? Like, it basically feels like the beginning of the story. Like, they got to Third Earth, and then they decided to stay. That's basically the big thing that happens at the end of the arc. And so that's like setting up the beginning of the story, more so than anything else, right? So all of that was a prologue, not necessarily the first arc of the story. You have Gun Hunting number 1. I love the storytelling. I'm a bit disappointed by the artwork, not because the artwork is bad. I think that Ang-Hor Ken, was that his name? I think that's his name. Does a good job, but there were some odd choices in terms of poses for the female character, and then the coloring was a lot worse than before. And I think also the inking was a bit bad. So that was pretty disappointing because the series thrives on the fact that it has good artwork and cool storylines, and only the cool storyline is being given to us. The artwork is suffering a bit, so that's a bit disappointing. You have Green Arrow number 12, and you can kind of consider this the end of the run, where everything that happens after this is more to do with absolute power than Green Arrow specifically, right? So yeah, but that was a good story end. I liked it. I did think about dropping off at this point, but I decided against it. I think it'll be fine. I'll just continue reading Green Arrow until it ends, right? So yeah, you have Rogue Sun number 19, and this was great. It's a single story that ends at the middle of the volume, right? So, at the middle of the issue. So when you read it with Dylan's face up, that means that you're reading Dylan's perspective. And when you flip the book over and you're reading, like as in, like you flip the book like this, right? So you start reading from the back towards the middle. You're reading from Dylan's dad's perspective. So that was really cool. I really like how inventive they are with the medium when it comes to Rogue Sun. However, I'm not sure that it makes sense when you put it into a collected edition, right? Like I feel like you'll just lose a lot of that, and I'm not really sure if there's a way to counteract that. So we'll see, but it was good. I liked it. Here we have Rebel Moon, House of Blood Axe number 4. This is the end of the story. Thank God it's the end. After watching Rebel Moon 2, Scargiver or whatever it's called, I'm really disappointed with the series. I really am unhappy because it was pretty easy to land. Like the idea of the story is pretty simple, and there's been a lot of examples of it done well. And the fact that they just couldn't make it work is extremely disappointing because it was longer than literally any other movie that has ever done anything like it. And somehow it made it worse. That means that I really don't like what's it called? Rebel Moon anymore, and that's really disappointing. And that made me finish reading this like a hassle. Like it was really annoying to read. I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm upset about this because I thought it was gonna be awesome, and it turned out to be crap. So that sucks. Here's Blue Beetle number 9. Not much to say about this one since I already talked about number 10. The storyline here is good. So I that's all there is to say about that. I will review it here soon. Like the whole story completely, right? You have Wonder Woman number 9. This continues on with Wonder Woman being trapped by the Monarch or whatever his name is. And this story was really good. Like the part of the story that we're going through here, the explanation here is quite good. However, I feel like I'm not sure how Tom King is going to manage to make this part of absolute power. Because Wonder Woman is part of absolute power because you need to have the Trinity in all your events. But this has nothing to do with any of that. I don't know how you can... Like, this is an introspection into Wonder Woman. I don't know how you can make that work at the same time as you're working through whatever it is absolute power is supposed to be. Here's Transformers number 8. Really good stuff. Not much to say about this one since I already talked about number 9. And here's Ain't No Grave number 1. This was phenomenal. I have a review for it. You guys can check that out. And here is The Forge number 8. Some interesting stuff that I was not expecting happened here, and that's really exciting. However, I'm not really sure where it's gonna go next. And I also don't know how long the series is gonna be because so far it's been 3 seasons of the series, right? Each season has 3 issues, and each issue is of course like 70 pages long, so it makes sense to have that much time allotted to this, right? But I'm not sure how they're gonna manage to finish this season of the story in the 70 pages allotted to the next issue without it feeling like there's more to it than the last 2 times, right? Like the last 2 times, there's obviously some sort of of cliffhanger that was set up, right? But I'm not sure what cliffhanger is going to set up the next part of the series that is going to beat the cliffhanger at the end of this one, right? So I'm curious how that's going to go, but I very much love this series. I think it's great. So yeah, I can't wait to review the next part of the story when it comes out. So, and yeah, that's it. So that's everything I've been reading and watching this month. What about you guys? What have you guys read and watched this month? Let me know down below, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.